Greetings everyone, peace to you all. Welcome to another episode of Praiseworthy Reviews, where we go through video games to see if they are excellent and commendable. Today we will be reviewing Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, Insomniac's Christmas sequel to the first entry, Marvel's Spider-Man. As usual, we will be evaluating the game based on 5 criteria: fun factor, educational value, cultural value, spiritual value, and cost. For context, prior to this review, I have played Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered, and I have finished this game to the credits. I also want to state that this review assumes that you have played Marvel's Spider-Man or the remastered version, and I will make some gameplay comparisons. So if you have not played Marvel's Spider-Man, my personal recommendation is that you just go purchase and play Remastered first. So without further ado, let's jump in. The gameplay of this iteration of Spider-Man contains a variety of activities, including exploration, puzzles, stealth missions, and of course, combat.
Bioelectricity can take down Rhino, but can it save Christmas dinner?
Gone are the mini-games and investigation sequences, which I personally am happy about. I don't mind playing as civilian Miles and looking around investigating, but I didn't enjoy dodging bad guys as a civilian in the first game, and thankfully, you don't have to do that in Miles Morales. The player plays as Miles Morales, who basically plays in nearly identical ways as Peter Parker, except that he actually has 2 other major abilities that Peter does not have. As before, the player can sling webs all over New York City, exploring different areas. This is usually encouraged with some collectibles to pick up. There are a variety of crime-fighting activities that return from the first game that I will loosely call puzzles. Scanning the environment to figure out how to open certain areas, usually following power lines and such, were okay. Webbing up bursting pipes and following animals around were also fine. I did not like any of the new puzzles involving using electricity conducting webbing, though. Those puzzles and a few others were irritating and not intuitive, and I generally like puzzles in action-adventure games. Stealth missions make a return. Thankfully not the civilian Mary Jane or Miles Morales types, but the Batman Arkham series type, where you try to take down as many bad guys as you can before you get spotted. Miles actually has an ability that helps with this if you get caught, making it easier than the previous game. Combat is very similar to the previous game, with the Arkham-style flow to combat. Using spider sense to dodge is ever important as before. There's a melee attack, a ranged option that usually involves either disarming people at range or flying over, throwing stuff with webs, and using gadgets. Gadgets like web shooters and remote mines return, although Miles has access to significantly fewer than Peter. Leveling up skills generally consists of improving general fighting skills as well as Miles' new powers. Suits have some varied benefits, but honestly the game is so short and the unlocking so uneven that I didn't really mess with this a lot. The combat is easier than in the previous game, thanks to Miles' new bioelectricity powers. They are generally a cool distinctive.
Ooh, we gotta name it. How about Venom Power?
Although the Venom attack nomenclature may be confusing to Spider-Man fans. Overall, the gameplay is pretty much a return of all the best aspects of the first game, with some of the less fun stuff removed. Even though some of the puzzles were a little annoying, they were few and far between, so I'm going to give Miles 5 stars for fun factor. The educational value of Spider-Man Miles Morales is difficult to evaluate. The difficulty of the game, even on Spectacular, is not that hard. Sure, there were plenty of combats that I needed to retry, but it was mostly because of how little room there is for error on this difficulty. I kind of missed the photography activities that introduced iconic areas of New York from the first game, although it makes sense that that is more of a Peter Parker thing than a Miles Morales thing. I liked the positive portrayal of reading classical literature.
Have you started Jane Eyre for Miss Mallard's class?
I haven't done any homework since school let out.
It's wild. I just finished this wedding scene. Can't put it down.
Are you reading right now? I thought you were helping me.
Yep, nope, I'm here. You have my undivided attention. As soon as I finish this chapter. 5 minutes.
Dude!
I wish they had dropped a few more references to high school education. Perhaps the best educational value comes from 2 points in the game, the first being Pete's Pigeon Facts.
Welcome to Pigeon Facts, your source for daily fun facts about pigeons. Pigeon Fact 1, incoming.
How do I turn this off?
Did you know? Scientist Nikola Tesla nursed injured pigeons back to health. When his favorite bird died, he was inconsolable for weeks.
That's kinda interesting.
The second point in the game where there's a lot of educational value are the museum exhibits.
I wonder what algae tastes like. Probably kale.
Which provide some interesting factual knowledge. Based on this, I'm going to give Miles Morales 3 stars for educational value. Evaluating the artistic value of Spider-Man Miles Morales may be slightly skewed for me because I played the remastered version of the first game, where all the textures and graphical improvements from this game were already brought over, which means that this game doesn't seem improved compared to the remastered game. Even so, the game looks amazing. Miles looks good in cutscenes, loading screens, and of course, combat. The suits look great, and the animation is top-notch for basically everything, from facial animations to web-slinging to butt-kicking. The music is more of the same orchestral heroic music by John Bassano, with a little hip-hop thrown in to give Miles a more unique cultural identity. The voice acting is believable, and Najee Jeter does a good job making Miles likable while still distinct from Peter.
Nice to meet you. This is why P gave me a C in quizzing.
The plot is relatively simple and uncomplicated. There are no clever twists or interesting developments, just a generally straightforward superhero story. The setting is okay, with most things taking place in Harlem. The game tries to highlight the Harlem identity of the game, which is moderately successful. The Christmas season was, to me, easily the best part of the setting.
I didn't want to miss Christmas in New York. You can't. It's the best time of the year.
If anything, the game does not lean into the holiday season enough. The character story arcs are the best aspect of the story, with most of the game focused on the development of a few main relationships. Overall, the story was predictable and perhaps overly safe, but did manage to have a few moving moments. As of summer 2023, Miles Morales has sold over 14 million copies, and he appears in the third entry, Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Overall, I'm going to assign 4 stars for its cultural value. As far as negative content is concerned, Miles Morales is generally clean. There is some fantasy violence with just a little bit of blood here and there. The language is also generally clean, at least from the protagonists, but the gangsters do throw out the odd swear word. There is no depiction of drugs or alcohol, although there is some mention of some criminal bosses that want to sell drugs. There's no nudity or sexual content, although there is a somewhat forced inclusion of a lesbian relationship of minor NPCs that didn't feel necessary or relevant to character development. As far as positive content is concerned, Miles is a generally good role model, both as himself as a high school student and as Spider-Man. Miles is portrayed as a hardworking student that also volunteers to help the homeless. The violence is about as clean as it gets. Spider-Man generally beats down criminals with fists, webs, and gadgets, and actively tries not to kill anyone.
I'm not gonna kill the guy. That's not how we work.
I also appreciate how the normalization of Christianity is continued from the first game.
His business is called Y'all Meet Jesus. Anything gets messed up, he's your guy.
I think we can all use Jesus right about now.
ESRB rates it T for teen, which, if you are okay with the mild language and a little bit of blood, seems like the appropriate rating. The messages of the game are also generally positive, if not as powerful as the first game. For more analysis on the themes of the game, check out my biblical themes video for this game. Overall, I'm going to give Miles Morales 4 stars for spiritual value. In my personal opinion, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales does not do well in the cost criterion. For the time rich, there are similar activities from the previous Spider-Man to engage in. There are time capsules and tech parts to collect, crimes to stop, web-slinging traversal challenges to attempt, and combat training to engage in, as well as some enemy bases to clear. Honestly, none of these were particularly engaging. I did enjoy the side missions, which felt like short side narratives that developed Miles and Genki. I also enjoyed the FNSM app activities. They were surprisingly good. For the time poor, the main narrative can be completed in around 8 hours. I played on Spectacular, and it took me approximately 12 hours. Out of the side content, I mainly did the blue side missions, the FNSM activities, and picked up tech parts as they were convenient. I felt that the main campaign was too short for what was needed to tell a more developed story, and I say that as a time-poor father who prefers shorter campaigns. It's a shame that for all that the game emphasizes how Miles is also Spider-Man, in the end, Insomniac treats him as a sidekick with a significantly shorter entry, titling the third entry 2. As far as price is concerned, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales retails for $49.99 USD and can regularly be found for half off, which only feels okay on sale, given the relatively short runtime of the main campaign. Overall, based on the content value, narrative accessibility, and asking price, I'm going to give Miles Morales 3 stars for cost, although I think I would have given this 2 stars if I had paid full price at launch. Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, for all its flaws, was still a wonderful present for the Christmas season. While it will probably never be what Die Hard is to Christmas movies, I think it does successfully deliver an action-packed holiday experience.
I don't know about you, but I'm so full of holiday cheer right now.
The gameplay is still as fun as before. The story is smaller in scope, but still charming in its own way. While the puzzles were unfun, that's a relatively small nitpick. Honestly, the game's biggest flaw is that it treats itself as a big DLC rather than a full entry into the mainline series, in terms of length of campaign and complexity in story and new gameplay mechanics. As someone who still prefers Peter Parker, I think Insomniac could have invested a little more into the game and made it Spider-Man 2 Miles Morales. But that's just my personal opinion. Based on the criteria discussed in the video, I subjectively assigned Miles Morales the rating of Genre Gem. That's all I have for you in this video.
You have yourself a happy holiday.
Bless you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If this video blessed you in some way, please consider watching some of my other videos, subscribing, or sharing with me some of your thoughts in the comments below.